The mud of Gaul does not just cover you, it tries to consume you. It sucks at your hobnailed sandals, the heavy leather caligae that have blistered your heels for 500 miles. Rain, freezing and relentless, drives straight through the interlocking iron rings of your lorica hamata. The chainmail weighs 30 pounds. Your rectangular wooden shield, the scutum, weighs another 20. You are carrying 60 pounds of gear, rations, and entrenching tools on your back, your shoulders burning with a lactic acid fire that hasn't faded since you marched out of Italy. You are a legionary, a citizen of Rome, and right now, you are nothing but a disposable cog in an unstoppable 5,200-man machine. The man to your left is shivering violently. He is 19. You share a heavy leather tent with him, along with a mule, a cooking pot, and a stone hand mill. You are part of a contubernium, an 8-man squad that eats, sleeps, and bleeds together in a space no larger than a modern closet. You know his mother's name. You know he owes a gambling debt to a soldier in the 4th century. But right now, you do not look at him. You look straight ahead at the tree line, waiting for the barbarians to break cover. Silence in the ranks is not a suggestion. It is absolute law. Behind you paces the Centurion. You know he is there because you can hear the rhythmic slap of his vities, the thick vine stick he carries as a badge of his office, striking his leather greaves. If you break formation, if you panic, if you take one step backward, he will not hesitate to use it. Castigatio, the beating. You have seen men's backs flayed open by that stick just for falling asleep on watch. You fear the enemy in the trees, but you fear the Centurion more. That is exactly how the system is designed to work. The tree line erupts. A tidal wave of screaming, unarmored warriors pours into the clearing. They slash the air with massive iron broadswords. Your Centurion barks a single guttural command. You draw back your right arm. You grip the pilum, a heavy javelin engineered with a soft iron shank designed to bend on impact so the enemy cannot throw it back. You hurl it into the approaching mass. Immediately you draw your gladius. It is a short, brutal stabbing sword. You do not swing it. Swinging leaves your ribs exposed. Roman military training is built on a single, terrifyingly efficient philosophy. You stay behind the wall of your scutum, and you thrust. You push forward. You step into the man in front of you. You punch the shield into his face, drop your arm, and drive 2 feet of steel upward into his abdomen. Step, thrust, recover. Step, thrust, recover. It is not glorious combat. It is an industrial slaughterhouse. When the horn finally blows and the enemy breaks, you do not cheer. You wipe the blood from your face, check your tent mates to see who is still breathing, and you immediately begin digging a ditch. Because the Roman army does not sleep in the wild. Every single night, regardless of exhaustion, regardless of casualties, you build a castra, a fortified camp with a defensive trench and wooden stakes. Your compensation for surviving this meat grinder, 225 denarii a year, but you never actually see that silver. By the time the quartermaster deducts your mandatory taxes for the grain you eat and the tunic on your back, your purse is practically empty. You survive on the promise of war booty, looting the dead, dividing the spoils of burned settlements, and the desperate hope that you will live to see the end of your 25-year service contract. If you make it, the empire will grant you a plot of farmland or a lump sum of 3,000 denarii, your premia. But 25 years is an eternity when every day is a roll of the dice. Decades do not pass. They are ground away by forced marches and the unending rhythm of camp construction. The weak die of dysentery. The careless die on the ends of spears. You are neither. You are persistent. You learn the mechanics of survival. Your competence does not go unnoticed. You are pulled from the mud and the standard infantry line. You are elevated to an immune. You are still a fully trained killer, but you possess a specialized skill. Perhaps you proved adept at numbers, or surveying land, or binding wounds without the men bleeding out. As an immune, you are excused from the grueling manual labor of digging latrines and chopping timber. Your body finally stops aching permanently. Soon after, the Centurion of your 80-man century points at you. He appoints you as his optio, his second-in-command. Your pay doubles instantly, but so does the weight on your shoulders. You no longer just stand in the line. You stand at the rear of it. During a battle, while the Centurion leads from the front, your job is to stay behind the men, keeping the formation tight. If a raw recruit turns to flee, it is your job to stop him. If he pushes past you, the discipline of the entire unit collapses. Or perhaps you are appointed as the tesserarius, the commander of the guard. You are the keeper of the daily watchword. You oversee the sentries who stand watch in the freezing blackness of the night. It sounds like an administrative privilege, but the reality is terrifying. The Roman military justice system is unforgiving. If one of your sentries falls asleep on duty, the punishment is fustuarium. You have had to oversee it. You have stood there and watched as the condemned man is surrounded by the very soldiers whose lives he endangered. You watch as they beat him to death with wooden cudgels and stones. If he somehow miraculously survives and escapes, he is banished forever, stripped of his citizenship and his humanity. Discipline is the god you all pray to. Without it, you are just a mob in the woods. Your meticulous nature eventually pushes you into one of the most visible, dangerous, and prestigious roles an enlisted man can hold. You become the signifer. You are no longer just a soldier. You are the living symbol of your century. You carry the centurial signum into battle. It is a massive, towering spear shaft, decorated with shining metal medallions and topped with an open hand, signifying the oath of loyalty your men took. You wear a wolf pelt draped over your helmet. In the chaotic, deafening roar of combat, when the dust chokes the air and blood blinds the eyes, your men cannot hear commands. They look for you. They look for the standard. Where you go, they go. If you retreat, the line breaks. If you advance, the line pushes. You are the beating heart of 80 men. Because of this, you are the first target. Every enemy archer, every spear thrower, wants to drop the wolf pelt. You carry the standard in one hand, leaving only a small round buckler to defend yourself. You survive entirely on the tightly locked shields of the men around you. But your true power exists off the battlefield. As the signifer, you are the century's banker. You manage the savings accounts of every man in your unit. A portion of their pay is mandatorily withheld and kept in a secure chest at the headquarters. You track the ledgers. You handle the burials. You know exactly who is sending money back to a wife in Rome and who is drinking their wages away in the civilian settlements that cling to the edges of the fortress. Men look at you with deep, profound respect. You hold their lives in combat, and you hold their futures in peace. You draw twice the basic pay, and you finally feel a modicum of control over your destiny. But you want more. You look at the men walking the camp with the transverse crests on their helmets, the men who give the orders, the career professionals. You want the Centurionate. Promotion to Centurion is not a matter of passing a written exam. It is granted by the provincial governor, often based on decades of brutal, demonstrable leadership and political maneuvering. When you finally receive the promotion, your entire physical presence changes. You strip off the standard legionary gear. You strap heavily decorated greaves to your shins and layer scale armor over your chest. You move your gladius to your left hip and your dagger, the pugio, to your right, a complete reversal of the rank-and-file soldiers. It is a statement. You do not fight in the shield wall anymore. You fight as an individual. You mount a transverse horsehair crest horizontally across your helmet, making you instantly identifiable from the sides in the chaos of a melee. And you are handed the vidis, the vine stick. You are now in command of 80 men. You earn 10, sometimes 20 times the basic wage of the men below you. You run the day-to-day existence of the cohort. The transition from being the man beaten by the stick to the man wielding it is a psychological threshold. You cannot afford to be their friend. You have seen mutinies. You know the dark legends of decimation. When a unit shows cowardice, they are divided into groups of 10, and they draw lots. The one who draws the short straw is beaten to death by the other 9 with their bare hands. You must be harder than the enemy, harder than the winter, and harder than the men themselves to ensure they never face that fate. But the Centurionate is not a flat hierarchy. It is a vicious, fiercely competitive ladder. A legion contains 10 cohorts. The 2nd through the 10th cohorts each contains 6 centuries. The commander of each cohort's first century is the pilus prior, the senior centurion of that specific block of 480 men. During a pitched battle, when the legate is screaming orders from a horse miles away, you are the one making the split-second tactical decisions for your cohort. But everyone is looking at the first cohort. The first cohort is not like the others. It is the vanguard. It is double strength, containing 5 massive centuries of 160 men each, totaling 800 of the most elite, battle-hardened veterans in the known world. The 5 centurions who command this cohort are known as the primi ordines. They earn 30 times the base wage. They are the aristocracy of the enlisted men. To break into the primi ordines requires decades of flawlessly surviving the worst combat the Empire has to offer. Some men spend 40 years serving in 12 different legions and never touch the first cohort. But you do. The day you are named primus pilus, the first spear, you reach the absolute summit. You are the commanding centurion of the first century, of the first cohort. You are the senior-most enlisted soldier in an army of over 5,000 men. Your pay skyrockets to an astronomical 60 times the base wage. When you walk through the camp, lower-ranking centurions step out of your way. Your responsibility is staggering. In battle, you command the entire first cohort, but more importantly, you are charged with the physical protection of the Aquila, the Golden Eagle. The Aquila is not just a flag, it is the soul of the legion. To lose the eagle in battle is an embarrassment so profound, a disgrace so absolute that a legion incapable of retrieving it is often permanently disbanded and erased from history. You remember the stories of Julius Caesar's invasion of Britain, when the men froze in fear on the ships, terrified of the painted warriors on the beaches. It was the eagle bearer of the 10th Legion who threw himself into the surf alone, forcing the rest of the army to follow, rather than suffer the ultimate shame of letting the eagle fall. You stand at the front of the line. The golden eagle catches the sun above your head. You hold the lives, the honor, and the legacy of 5,000 men in your scarred hands. When your 25 years of service are finally complete, you do not retire to a quiet farm. You are elevated to the equestrian class, the minor nobility of Rome. The military is the only life you understand. You accept the position of praefectus castrorum, the camp prefect. You are now the third in command of the entire legion. You are a grizzled veteran in your late 40s or 50s, surrounded by young, aristocratic officers who look at you with a mixture of disdain for your low birth and absolute terror of your experience. While the generals play politics, you keep the army alive. You lay out the massive temporary cities the Legion builds every night. You manage the engineering corps, the medical staff, and the logistics of feeding 5,000 men and thousands of pack animals. You oversee the Legion's terrifying siege train, 59 ballistae, and 10 massive onagers, catapults pulled by oxen that can hurl boulders through fortress walls or break enemy formations from a distance. You are the master of the machine. If the legion starves, if the camp falls, it is your failure. If the general is killed or absent, you take command of the entire army. But there is a ceiling you cannot punch through. You were born in the dirt. To truly wield the power of the legion, you must be born in the marble halls of Rome. The perspective shifts completely. You are no longer a soldier who bled his way up from the mud. You are a senator of Rome, in your early 30s, appointed directly by the emperor himself. You wear a breastplate molded to look like a heroic torso. A red cloak drapes over your shoulders. You ride a magnificent warhorse. You are the latest legionus, the legionary legate. You command not only the 5,200 heavy infantrymen, but also the thousands of auxiliary troops attached to the legion, the foreign cavalry, the archers from Syria, the slingers from the Balearic Islands. You control a force of over 10,000 armed men. You are the governor of the province. Your word is absolute law over millions of square miles of conquered territory. You do not mingle with the grunts. You surround yourself with an elite command staff. Your second in command is the Tribunus Latoclavius, a young noble wearing the broad purple stripe of the senatorial class, sent here by his family to gain a few years of military prestige before running for political office back in Rome. Below him are your 5 tribuni and gusticlavi, equestrian administrators, managing the staggering paperwork required to keep an army functioning. Your concerns are no longer about the chafe of a sandal or the thrust of a sword. Your concerns are imperial. You understand the terrifying political reality of your position. Throughout history, the legions are the ultimate arbiters of power. A demagogue with a loyal legion can cross a river and tear the republic to shreds. The troops' loyalty is secured not just by their centurions, but by the imaginifer, a specialist who carries a standard bearing the image of the emperor, a constant, looming reminder of who pays them. But you know the truth. You look out over the sprawling fortress, the smoke rising from thousands of campfires, the relentless mechanical discipline of the guards' changing shift. The emperor is in Rome 1,000 miles away. These men are here. If you lead them to victory, if you secure their plunder, if you bleed with them in the cold forests of Germania or the blistering deserts of Parthia, they will not cheer for the emperor. They will cheer for you. You sit in your command tent, drinking imported wine, while the camp prefect manages the perimeter. You look at the map of the frontier spread across your heavy oak desk. You hold the leash of the most devastating, systematic, and ruthless military apparatus the world has ever seen. It conquered the world by absorbing the tactics of its enemies, refining its armor, and treating discipline as a religion. You have the power to secure an empire, or you have the power to take it away. The horn blows in the distance. The camp stirs. The machine wakes up. It does not matter if you are the raw recruit freezing in the vanguard or the senator dictating orders from a horse. The legion demands your blood, and the legion never stops marching.